Before this starts, I do want to say both of us don't condone the use of drugs or psychedelics or any form of substances. Don't do that to yourself, especially if you're young and around my age. If you're addicted or you even like have problems or you just want to get out of using, seek help. That's probably the one thing that you can do to get out of it. Hope you can enjoy this podcast and with an open mind and things like that. Enjoy. So I don't know how to start this, but welcome to What You Don't Hear, conversations about anything. So today's topic is on teen substance abuse, and I actually have a guest with me. Would you like to introduce yourself?
Hey, what's up? I'm Thomas.
All right, that's a great start. Roll the intro. Alright, here we go. So, what do you want to start talking about? Because, like, obviously this is, like, a very prominent issue, especially, like, in most schools now.
Yeah. I think starting from there, the most important thing to talk about is just, like, drug education.
Mm-hmm.
Because there's, like, definitely not enough of that in schools or in general. Like, schools teach sex ed, and in sex ed they don't teach, like, abstinence, you know? They like teach how to have safe sex because they know teenagers are gonna have sex no matter what, so they teach you how to do it safely. And I think that approach should be taken to drugs, because right now they're just kind of like, don't do them, they're bad, but kids are gonna do it anyway. And like, you gotta educate them about safety and dosing and testing substances, because when you don't do that, you just get a bunch of kids who have no idea what the fuck they're doing, taking a bunch of shit they don't know what's in it, you know.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that, because
like,
it's like...
You have to teach them about the effects of substances, you have to teach them about all that kind of stuff, because otherwise they're just in the dark, left to figure it out on their own, and you got kids going out on stretchers the first week of school because of that, you know?
Yeah. And I feel like overall, just using it, I mean, obviously it's like something that you should never do, in a sense. If you do get into it, there's obviously a way out of it.
Yeah.
And there's a point where you can tell when you're just addicted to it and stuff like that. So yeah, like it's that whole thing where it's like they should know if they were to ever have that safety thing, you know? Is that what you're trying to get at?
Yeah, like just a sex ed program, but for drugs.
Yeah.
You know, something like that.
Well, obviously the schools are not doing that much. I mean, I heard like, I think in Canada or somewhere, they're trying to stop kids from vaping in bathrooms because it's actually real. It was like a Vice thing. It's like they took out the doors.
And then now putting in nicotine detectors and stuff.
Yeah, and now that like people are like, this is invasion of privacy because of open bathroom doors, obviously.
Yeah, well, even at our school, they were literally closing the bathrooms. This year, there was like about a 2-week period where so many kids were in the bathroom smoking, they straight up closed the boys' bathroom. And I'm like, is that the proper way to address that? I don't think so. I think the proper way to address that is teaching kids about the things they're putting in their body instead of just punishing them. Because punishing people doesn't make them want to change. It just builds resentment towards whoever's punishing them.
That's a very strong point. Because, I mean, obviously it's like you can totally, like, you can do that, but, like, everyone else, like, what if someone who actually needs to use the bathroom, you know? Like,
yeah. No, yeah, like, there were times I had to pee and there was only one bathroom open and there's 400 guys trying to go to one bathroom. Yeah. It's like, come on, there's a better solution. We can't be doing that. That's not fair to students.
That's obviously, like, the big struggle, because it's, like, it's hard to deal with it now that it's super prominent, because, I mean, they don't really know how to figure it out. Yeah. How to, like, solve it.
Well, because, you know, 20 years ago, you could smoke cigarettes, you could smoke, like, actual tree, I guess, but there was no way to effectively do that kind of stuff on school grounds without getting caught, because smell and all that kind of stuff. But schools have to figure out how to, like, adjust themselves in this age of electronic cigarettes and stuff, because, you know, kids can just get high in the bathroom and no one will fucking know.
Yeah, I mean, that's a pretty fair point, because it's so easily accessible, like, no matter what. I feel like people also, like, they know it's easily accessible, and then they end up doing it, and now it's like, now it becomes a problem, especially at the schools now. So, I mean, I feel like not only a school needs to do their part, but, like, the companies and the big names that have to, like, also do their part to try to make it less accessible, you know?
Oh, 100%. Like, a lot of companies market, even if they don't admit it, they do market towards kids. Like, you look at Juul ads from before they got into trouble. Like, that's clearly marketing to a younger audience, you know? Like, they wanted young people to buy their cool flavors and that kind of stuff. And so it's, you know, the company's marketing to kids, it's the schools not educating. it's kids making poor choices. It's kind of all of it.
Yeah. Of course, it's like, I feel like they make it seem so, not like kid friendly, but they make it seem like a kid would probably see it and be like, wow, that's so cool and stuff like that. And they'd be like, and they'd actually like try it, and they'd realize, and they won't realize any punishment or any like consequence they have from any form.
Well, especially things like nicotine. Developing a nicotine addiction does not make your life any worse. You know, you can be a person with a nicotine addiction who has a 4.0 and is going to college, you know, and companies know that, and so they can get kids, you know, with that type of stuff, because here's a product they can market the kids that kids can take continuously that isn't going to mess up their lives to the extent to where their parents will realize it. And they just made a lifelong customer from a kid that didn't know any better, you know?
It's always weird to, like, think about it. When you think about, like, you see, like, all of the I'm not going to, like, call anyone out, but, like, more the ghetto kids. Like, they always, like, have it. And then, like, it's, like, surprising when you see someone who's, like, not seen as one who would do it. And eventually it's like their kid is not, like, who's like really good now. Like, what is potential? Like, is there potential going down, or is it going up? Or is it like,
well, and it's gotten to the point now where it's not even just ghetto kids. Like, there's surveys going around that I think 78% of high school seniors have vaped in the last month. It's a serious problem. You know, it's affecting everybody.
And it's even heading into middle schools. I actually I have like a little story. So like I went to a middle school event once, and I'm not gonna name names obviously because I don't want to be like sued or some shit. But I don't want to name names, but there was like at some point it was just like you see like 4th, 5th graders, or 3rd graders. So they're having fun with their parents and stuff, but then you see like the 8th graders, even 7th graders, they're like in the bathroom and you don't know what they're doing, but like you can tell what's happening.
Yeah.
Because I remember one of my friends, they just like they wanted to see what happened because like someone like called them in, and then it was like he saw exactly what's happening. So we went to go report it in a sense, and we were able to like, kind of basically just like help out the situation in a sense, but still like that's all they did. They kicked them out of the bathroom and that's it.
Yeah. Well, like, it's a huge problem in middle school, dude. Like, I hang out with my boys all the time after school, you know, Fridays, and, you know, we'll be at the park, and the middle school's right by the park, dude, and middle schoolers get out of school and they go over to the park and they just start like smoking, you know. I see these like 6th graders hitting wax pens. And I'm like, you're in 6th grade, bro. And I was in 6th grade, I was playing fucking Minecraft, dude. Like, you know, I was playing Minecraft and listening to, like, Christian radio stations, and you're out here, like, taking 91% wax. You know, it's wild. Yeah, it's wild. Yeah.
When I was in 6th grade, literally, like, it was just me and a small friend group. We would just, like, sit at a certain spot and just talk. And now it's, like, a whole different atmosphere. And that's, like, you can see the transition heading on from here on out. You can see those middle schoolers, they go into the high school, and it just seems kind of like a norm, you know?
Yeah.
It's
100% a norm. Like, I generally assume that people either, you know, do that kind of, like, they take drugs, they, you know, vape, they do whatever, or they're okay with it. That's the assumption, because everyone does it, you know? Like, everyone.
Yeah.
And the assumption is that everyone is doing it because everyone is doing it, you know?
Yeah. And everyone doing it isn't new, like, at this point.
Oh, and it hasn't been new for a long time. I just think it's getting to the point now to where there's not really that group of people that's willing to say no. Because, you know, substance abuse with kids has always been an issue. It's been an issue for decades. But there was always, like, a group of kids who would step out and be like, no, we're not going to do that. You know, we're going to be chill, not going to fuck with our lives like that. And that's not really happening anymore. You know, it's just kind of everyone is doing it because it's so embraced by popular culture and everyone, you know.
And even, like, in the beginning, you can see, like, a bunch of videos. People are just, like, casually vaping or casually smoking. Music videos, especially. You know, in music videos. Or even just, like, you can just walk around the street and you'll probably see someone vaping or something. Especially, like, in public areas. Obviously, we're surrounded by it so much that it's kind of, like, now transitioning to younger people. And that's the bad part.
Yeah,
because with the adults, they know what they're doing. Like, they know they like they're accepting it, and even if it's like they're addicted to it, they're trying to get out of it. Or if they are addicted to it, it's the whole like they're addicted to it.
Yeah, the adults. I don't want to say I don't have a problem with adults being addicted to stuff because it's shitty that they're addicted and addiction's not good.
Well, yeah, of course.
But they are adults who made a choice. And it's different when you're an informed adult making a choice to buy a product and versus when you're a 13-year-old impressionable kid who wants to be cool like his friends and likes the cotton candy nicotine juice. You know, there's a difference there. And so an adult who chooses to make a decision is an adult choosing to make a decision. A kid doesn't really have that choice. A kid may think they have a choice, but when your brain isn't developed,
especially when you're given to that peer pressure.
Yeah. Oh, when all your friends are doing it, and it's like, come on, dude, just do it. Obviously, you're gonna do it.
Yeah.
It just be like that.
They always say, like, I mean, when you're getting into peer pressure, it's always gonna be like, oh, it won't hurt or stuff like that. They're always gonna pull that whole thing. But like, obviously, I mean, if you do have that self-control, of course, then yeah, you can maybe like try it once and that's it. But then, obviously, when you're like a 13-year-old who literally might be more dependable on his parents for decisions, there's no way that you can't like say no.
Yeah, but I do also think that there's a difference, not downplaying, teenage vaping and that kind of stuff. But I also think there's a large difference between that and the rising number of teenage opiate overdoses or that kind of stuff. There's a lot of serious problems that schools are not addressing, and it's not just vaping in the bathroom. It's kids taking Xanax that's pressed with fentanyl. It's kids drinking cough syrup. It's kids taking Molly that's cut with W18 and you don't fucking know. Like, it's that kind of stuff, and it's starting to become more and more prevalent, and schools are not teaching kids how to handle it.
Yeah, I feel like recently a lot of hip hop like news has been about deaths of like I'm naming names like Lil Peep, Mac Miller, overdoses, and now it's like that's when it becomes the bigger issue, because it's like you have things laced now, and it's now they don't know how to, if when you're a kid and you get these, you don't know how to like know if they're not laced.
Yeah, and the thing is, like, there are obviously, I don't even know if I can say obviously because it's not common knowledge, which is pathetic. There are drug test kits. And you can test your substances, and you can see, like, if your Xanax is really Xanax or if your acid is really acid or whatever, But, first of all, people aren't taught that those kits exist. And second of all, those kits are expensive, And when you have, like, a bunch of poor kids who are buying $5 pressed Xanax, they don't have money and they don't care enough to go out and get a kit. And so they're taking fentanyl.
Especially, I mean, okay, so, like, I want to mention again, like, we're not trying to advocate for you to like, oh, go buy some Xanax and test it, obviously.
Yeah, no, like, don't do that kind of stuff. Me personally, I have experience with it. I've done that, and so I can come from a place of like knowing what it's like. I would never advocate anyone to go down that path.
Yeah, I can like second that, because I've seen them definitely at that time. I'm not even kidding.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah,
if you know, you know. But we're not gonna go deep into that unless like we're okay with it and stuff like that.
I'm okay with it.
I mean, yeah, I'm okay with it too. Like, if you want to go deep into that, like talk about it in a sense, then that's perfectly fine. Obviously, this is what you don't hear.
Yeah,
a conversation about anything. So I mean, literally, we go into anything that we want to, unfiltered, raw, uncensored. So if we want to go into that, we can go into that. But it's like that whole thing where it's like, I have an outsider perspective, and like when you're completely fine, you can see the tolls it has on someone else.
Tolls.
What is that? Is that too news broadcasting?
No, keep going.
No, but you can see like the consequences it has on other people, and when you look at that, it does get concerning.
Oh yeah.
And of course, you can just like play it off as a joke, and obviously, when you're around this age, everything is kind of a joke.
Yeah. No, like, definitely. But it can get to a point where, like, it's a serious issue. And, like, look, like I said before, nicotine, weed, that stuff, bad. I don't want to say bad. I wouldn't advocate underage kids using it,
I wouldn't advocate anyone using it, but most underage kids.
If you're an adult, I don't say it's good, but you can make your legal choices. If you're a kid, don't go near that shit. But what I'm saying is a nicotine addiction won't destroy your life like an addiction to Oxycontin will.
Yeah.
And kids are starting to get addicted more to that type of stuff. And that type of stuff is starting to get more and more prevalent in society. I wasn't around 30 years ago, but I'm pretty sure 30 years ago, if you went into a school and you asked kids how many of the high school seniors had done MDMA, maybe, I don't know, a couple of them would. A study came out last year that's like 30% of high school students have taken MDMA, or senior students. That's like insane.
Yeah.
That's insane. Like, that's a Schedule I party drug, and there's seniors in high school taking it, and no one's talking about it.
I feel like no one's talking about it because they want to. The school themselves want to save their reputation. And
yeah.
That's like. I mean, that's obvious. Like, I get it. You want to save your reputation, but at the same time, you got to be transparent about the issues that you have.
Oh yeah. Well, and the other thing is, it's such a taboo topic. Like, schools just want to pretend like it's not an issue because it's such an issue that, like, going into it would cost schools money and resources and all the kind of stuff that they don't want to put into it. And it's cheaper and easier for them to pretend like it's not an issue. And they just suspend kids when issues rise with it, you know? Yeah. Like, I know kids where if you get caught with stuff on you, they'll suspend you, but they won't send you to talk to your counselor, you know?
Yeah.
And that's messed up because it's bad and you shouldn't break the rules. But if you're in a place where you're taking Xanax and you're 15, you shouldn't be punished for that. You should be helped. The school should be like, how can we help you not do this? How can we talk to your counselor, get you into a place where this isn't happening? They shouldn't just send you home for 2 days. Yeah. You know what I mean?
Because, I mean, I also feel like if you send them home, then their parents are going to recognize that this is happening. Especially the school will probably notify that, like, hey, your kid took Xanax. Yeah. But, like, that won't help. That makes situations worse, in my opinion. I mean, like, in my opinion, I feel like it makes situations worse. Because one thing is, your parents, they get one of two reactions. Either they're just mad angry at you, or they're so disappointed in you. And that doesn't help you as a person.
Yeah.
At all. Like, I mean, obviously, it's the whole thing, seek help. Seek help is probably one of the easiest things to do, and I feel like schools, when they catch people, like, doing drugs and things like that, or when they're on it and they haven't seen them take it, obviously, that's a point where you just need to give them help.
Yeah.
Generally.
Oh, yeah. Speaking of, like, not wanting to talk to your parents, I'm about to get real as fuck. Your boy goes to substance abuse counseling, right? And so one of the staples for substance abuse counseling when you're a minor, not when you're an adult, but when you're a minor, is that because you're there for substance issues, if you talk to your counselor about taking substances, your right to privacy is waived and they can talk to your parents, right? And they can tell your parents that. So there is no incentive whatsoever for kids in that type of counseling to be open with their therapist. Because let's say I relapsed, right? And I'm having a serious issue. Why would I talk to my therapist about that if all it's going to do is end up with my parents knowing and me getting in trouble? You know?
Yeah, no, that really does make sense.
Exactly. So there's no way for kids to, like, openly talk to someone without risking consequences or, you know, facing some huge punishment for, I don't want to say it's not your fault, but for making a choice when you're a kid and having to live with that, you know? You shouldn't have to suffer those consequences. You should be able to get help in a way where you're not being punished, you know?
Yeah.
Again, not saying you should do it in the first place, but you shouldn't punish addicts because that doesn't help anyone.
That's like a really strong point right there because, again, like, when they're addicted, what's like one of the few ways that you can get out of addiction? Seek help or literally try yourself. And when you try it yourself, you get through. It doesn't work. Withdrawal. Yeah, genuinely, it doesn't work. You get withdrawals. Yeah. You want to you have access to it easily when you're trying to get out of it, and then that becomes the bigger issue. And then the only way to do it is just seek help. Yeah. There's no other way to figure out, like, how am I going to get out of smoking a bunch of weed 24/7, 365?
You can't solve that problem yourself. You can't solve that problem yourself. You need to get help. And, like, even when you get help, that problem doesn't go away. You know, like, I get help. I haven't taken Xanax now. I relapsed. I haven't taken Xanax in 3 weeks, right? But that craving is still there constantly. And there's no way to get rid of that. And the only way you can deal with that is to get help because you can't do that yourself.
Yeah.
That doesn't go away yourself. And when you're a kid who doesn't have access to help, you're fucked.
Yeah. And of course, when you get help, you're getting it from someone who's an expert or at least, like, has done it before and he or she knows how it feels, right?
Yeah.
So when you do seek that help, it's more beneficial than just being alone.
Yeah. Well, and the other thing I would say is, honestly, don't try to do it yourself because that leads to worse consequences. There are certain things like drug substances, Xanax, alcohol, things like that, where when you're addicted to them, like a daily user addicted, and you stop taking them, like 100% cold turkey, you can die. You know what I mean? You have to, like, taper down the dosage because if you stop right away, you'll die. And if you don't go to a medical professional who knows these things and tells you that, you wouldn't know that. And if you're a 16-year-old kid who's trying to get out of a Xanax addiction and you stop taking bars right away, you'll have a seizure the next day. And you don't know that unless you go get help. Yeah. Which is why you need to go get help, you know?
Yeah. especially when you're easily that vulnerable, because like
Yeah.
there's no way you can get out of that vulnerability.
No.
But like, because when you're older, you're it's easier to make decisions because you have that better, like you have more independence. When you're 16 or 15, it's like, oh, you got a curfew, or I mean sometimes I mean your parents, you got to worry about them in general.
Well, yeah, exactly. I'd also like to point out, and as a teenager, I don't like to admit this, your brain is not fully developed until you are at least 22. So as a teenager, you are not making the decisions that a fully developed adult would be making. You're making maybe your decisions, and they're yours, and that's okay. But you're still not making the decisions that someone who's 25 and has life experience would be making, because you don't have that experience or that development yet. And so you need to have access to ways to remedy your poor decision making, because you will make poor decisions. And you shouldn't have to live with that, you know? You shouldn't have to live with a decision you make when your brain wasn't fully developed for the rest of your life.
Yeah, of course. Obviously, I'm not talking that much because, I mean, he's the expert here. Thomas is definitely the expert here. Like, I mean, in terms of, like, knowledgeable and experience, obviously.
Yeah.
And I'm not trying to, like, be like, oh, he's a fucking horrible guy. He does so much shit. No. But, like, he actually is trying to, like, one, give you help, and one, give himself help.
Yeah, no, and it's... I don't know, I think it's really important for people who at least are willing to talk, who have experience, to do it. Because, like, there are so many people who ask me questions who aren't even interested in taking substances, who just want to know and are curious. And I'm like, they're coming to me to take... This is going back to what we talked about at first. They're coming to me with these questions, and I'm a 15-year-old, 16-year-old kid. Like, maybe I can give them an answer that I read on Reddit or from experience, you know? But I'm not an expert. And we need to have actual education for this stuff, you know, because if a kid wants to know about pressed pills, they shouldn't have to come to me to know. They should be able to, you know, learn about the safety of that kind of stuff in a learning environment.
Because if we're being real, it's not good when you're being asked, what does this do? What are the dangers of it? Because that kind of like, I feel like, personally, what I think is that when you get asked that, it hits you hard, because it feels like, wow, people really know me just because of this.
Oh yeah, no, 100%. Like, there are kids who come up to me and they're like, hey, I am thinking about taking acid. Can you trip sit me? And I'm like, I've talked to you 4 times. Like, you know, like literally 4 times. And so that's another thing, I guess, that we could get into, is for people, kids especially, who deal with these types of issues, there is a huge, like, judgment from everyone who is outside of the issue, you know? Like, talking with people, I have a friend who recently just did a year-long stint at a rehab facility in Utah. He's 17. And talking to him there, he was like, the one thing everyone talked about was just the judgment from everyone. Because, you know, everyone around them is like saying, oh, I can't believe you're doing this. You're such a bad person for doing this. Why are you doing this? Judgment. That's not the way to go about it, you know? You, especially with kids who are like emotionally sensitive and vulnerable, judging them for that type of stuff is not the way to deal with it. And like, that happens a lot, bro.
Yeah. And I mean, what does that judging lead to? That judging leads to like them not wanting to speak out about it more, because then they feel horrible for themselves, and then that can lead to like using their substance more, or even like it can lead to the brink of death. Yeah, if we're being real,
it can no, honestly, that it can be it's not a good feeling. Let me tell you from personal experience. I had an incident at the start of the year involving Xanax, and I had a big problem. All my teachers got emailed about it, right? So first week of the year, all my new teachers are like, okay, so this kid is taking Xanax. He's obviously that type of person. And administration knew that. And so this whole year, all my teachers, I can tell, look at me through that lens. They like look at me through the lens of, this kid is a drug boy, or whatever you want to call it, you know? Yeah. Like, and that's not fun, because like I'm in English, and I'm like, my teacher kind of is judging me, especially her, because like I've had incidents with her. And so she'll be like judging me, or like she'll say something, or, you know, she just knows, you know. It's hard to even explain, because there's not like super huge incidents. It's just like a feeling, you know. You just kind of like can tell that there's some judgment there, and it's like, it sucks, because I'm like, I'm one of the best students in this class. I produce good work. I do my work, you know. I'm a good kid, but there's this judgment from something that happened, you know, and that is kind of reflected throughout all of society.
Yeah, it's that whole ideology of like when they don't focus on what's good, right?
Yeah.
They focus on what happened to you and what's bad, and they just put that above everything else.
Yeah. And the thing is, like, they look at what happened, but they don't look at everything else surrounding that. You know?
Yeah.
Like, they say, okay, so he passed out at the dance because he took Xanax. He must do that. But what they don't look at is the weeks surrounding that, or the things going on in my life around that time, or, you know, the things happening in my family at that time, or the personal things I was going through that pushed me to do that type of thing, you know? And it's like, I'm more than just a mistake, or like a drug mistake that I made, you know?
Yeah.
And you need to look past that kind of stuff, because addicts aren't just people who decided to take a drug because they wanted to get high. You know, you don't take Xanax because you're a happy person who's like, oh, I wonder what this is going to be like. You know, that's not how it works. And so you shouldn't judge people assuming that that's how it works.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, that's like a good point again. Because let's, like, if you take a kid and like you give him a week and you see what happens to him, like you see, he gets more isolated. You kind of like look at him in classes and you kind of see him like looking down a lot, or even just like writing something down, or not doing anything. He feels very unmotivated, and then you see him just like on that end of the week, kind of just like he's completely out of it, and he seems like there's like you can tell there's an issue, and you don't. I mean, the thing is, like, you don't want to bring it up because you probably won't like hear you out at that point.
Mm-hmm.
But then at the same time, you want to do something because you want to save them from what the issue is. And then that's the whole thing where it's like, at that point, when like, I mean, I don't think this happened to you like afterwards that event, but like, did anyone ever like message you saying like, yo, were you okay? Or, I mean, like, how was like that week when that happened? Like, what happened before that or something like that? Or, like, how are you now?
Well, first of all, I'll do a Xanax flex on you and say it wasn't a week, it was 3 months.
Okay.
But
in this well, in your situation, 3 months. But like, I'm gonna say, like,
I understand what you mean. Yeah, but there was definitely a lot of people would reach out and be like, "Hey, are you okay? Are you all right? Let me know if I can help you." And I'd say one of the things, honestly, that pushed me the most at that point to stop taking it was there was a dance Friday night, right? And I'm just telling them the story. It was a dance Friday night. I was on a bunch of Xanax that day. I drank at the dance. I passed out, found by the school. And I got in trouble. I got sent home. And I wasn't on my phone that whole night. I like put my phone down when I left the dance to go drink. And then I disappeared. And I wasn't on my phone till the next morning. And so I woke up the next morning, and there was probably about 20 texts and Snapchats from people asking me from that night where I had been. Where are you? Are you okay? In the morning, dude, I haven't heard from you. What's up? I heard, like, you passed out or you got sent to the ER or something, like, just saying stuff like, are you okay? And so there's definitely a lot of that, like, people reaching out to make sure you're okay. And that kind of is what almost pushed me to be like, I don't want to do this anymore, because I realized, I like saw there's 20 or 30 people that were genuinely concerned for my well-being.
Yeah. That's the best feeling, if I'm being honest.
It was such a humbling feeling, because I'm like, I thought to myself, what right do I have to do this to myself, because it's putting other people through this, you know? And maybe like step back and think, I'm being selfish by doing this to myself, because I'm fucking up my life, but I'm also fucking up the life and the happiness, or, whatever, of all the people around me. And that kind of is like a thought that makes you be like, damn, maybe I shouldn't do that. Take a step back a little bit.
Obviously, like, hold back a little bit. I mean, or just hold back 100%. Mm-hmm. And obviously, it's a slow progress. Slow process.
It's a slow process. And the other thing is, like, when you stop, you're never not an addict anymore. That's something I heard. There's this YouTube channel, I'll pimp him out. His name's CG Kid, and he does recovery assistance videos. And something he likes to say is, like, you're never not an addict anymore. You're always a recovering addict, because there's always that, like, urge to go back, And so I think that's, like, an important thing to think about, is that there's always that, like, pull for you to go back, and you always need to, like, realize that the throes of substances is not worth it for you and the people around you, even in the midst of that, because you're never gonna like totally be fine again. Like you're never gonna come out of an opiate addiction and like be okay in 100% in all senses of the word, you know? Like that just doesn't happen. So you need to like have that self-control.
And when you're this young, I mean, you don't really have much of that self-control. You kind of, I mean, especially when you reach that point, there's a point at which you feel like that self-control that you did have is now just completely gone.
Yeah.
And now you have to regain that, and that's even tougher to get back.
Oh, yeah. Well, and the problem is wanting to get the self-control even, because there's a point where you reach where first you have self-control and you deny that, and you're like, I'm not going to use my self-control, and you're aware that you're not using it. And then you get to the point where you no longer have self-control, and you know what you're doing is wrong, but you can't stop it. But at some point, you just get to a point where that self-control, you just don't give a shit about it anymore. And you're like, whatever. I don't care if what I'm doing is right or wrong. I just want to do this. And when it gets to that point, that's when you know it's bad. Because that's when, you know, you get to the point where you're on 30 milligrams of Xanax and you're like, I know I'm on 30 milligrams of Xanax, but I'm going to drink anyway. You know, and that's a point you'd never want to get to.
Because when you have that prior knowledge and then you take it, that prior knowledge kind of just fades away when you're on it. And now you have this sense of, I want to do this now and I want to do that now. And then now you're just in that dark cycle of just like almost ending your own life. Yeah.
Oh, definitely. Like you're not the same person when you're high on anything, but the more, you know, hard of a drug it is, the less of you are when you're on it. You know, like you're a fundamentally different person if you're a meth addict when you're on meth versus when you're sober. And the things you do when you're high, you would never do when you're sober, you know? And so there's like there's a disconnect between who you are sober and who you are when you're on the substance. And, you know, that's not good. You shouldn't be two people. You shouldn't be Jekyll and Hyde. You should just be yourself, you know? And it'd be like that.
That's great. So I mean, that's a lot to like kind of take in for a bit, and this is definitely gonna be one of those longer episodes. I mean, it's not just me now. I have someone that I'm talking with, and this is one of those longer episodes, and this is an actual topic that's definitely relevant to everyone. Everyone can like get it.
Yeah.
Because I know for a fact that like there's probably like 1 in 10 people that probably haven't done it, but then like that other 9 people, they've either tried it once, they're using it now, or they're just like
and if you're that one person, someone you know is doing it.
Yeah.
It's an issue that affects literally almost every kid our age.
Yeah, like you can walk into a bathroom and you'll see like 2 or 3 people using, and then you just like, I'm trying to take a piss, bro. Like let me take my piss.
Right.
And then you just like stench, it's just the room stenches up, and then it's just like, well, fuck.
Yeah.
What now?
Yeah, exactly. No, it's an issue that everyone deals with. And it's an issue that everyone deals with, yet no one seems to want to talk about. Which is strange.
Which is also why I made this podcast. I mean, I wanted to try to do this, and I feel like this could totally pop off, even though I totally would be okay with not having it. And that was totally just trying to flex.
Weird flex, but okay.
Yeah. I mean, so you want to like move to some of our like, because we have some guiding points that we want to talk about. I mean, we can totally move on to some of those.
I'm down. I think an interesting thing to talk about right now would be psychedelics.
Okay, that's definitely... I mean, I don't know. Have you guys heard of the YouTuber fucking... What is his name? Psych
Substance?
Psych Substances? I feel like people have seen him, if I'm being honest.
Okay.
If you haven't seen him, like, you want to talk about it?
You should watch Psych Substance. He's a great guy. Drug education on YouTube.
The most education you'll get ever. No, I'm kidding.
there are I would say him and this other channel, The Drug Classroom, are 2 of the best education channels. Anyway, psychedelics are a whole ass thing.
Yeah.
And
I feel like, I mean, I'm sorry cutting off, but like,
go ahead.
I feel like everyone, like, the culture is intoxicated by thinking that like psychedelics fall into that pit of drugs.
They don't.
And they're just bad.
Like you listen to, example, a Juice WRLD song, and he's talking about taking shrooms in the same sentence he's talking about sipping lean. And granted, all drugs are different, and, you know, no drug is the same, but there is a fundamental difference between psychedelics and stimulants or deliriants or anything like that. They are a completely different thing. And the education and knowledge around them is very limited. And that's kind of like That's not good because they're incredibly popular and a lot of people use them. And when there's a lot of people using something and no education whatsoever about that, and it's something that can be very harmful, that's not good.
I mean, would you say it's like very popular, but like it's not popular to like talk about? I'm
Okay,
obvious,
yeah.
but I'm saying like in standards of like you hear people using it, but it's not like you don't see it as much as people like using nicotine.
Obviously, yeah. And one of the things that goes into that is just because psychedelics are not addictive substances in any capacity. And so there's not like that urge for people to go back to it. And like high tolerances build up fast and you want to put a couple months in between trips just, for your mental sanity. And so, yeah, it's a thing that isn't taken as often, but an incredibly large amount of people have taken it. There was a survey that came out and about 44%, I think, of adults in Colorado have taken mushrooms. And I don't know if you guys know this, Colorado is about to vote to legalize mushrooms in May, actually. Yeah. But yeah, so they're definitely like popular and they're just different. And I guess I'll go into that a little bit if you're okay with that right now.
That's fine.
Just to give you an idea of why they're different. And it's mainly because they offer a completely different mental state. Like,
yeah, I can vouch for that. I've like, I mean, I don't know if you want to like.
Oh, go ahead. He trips at me.
Yeah, I trips at him, and he became like a completely different person. Like he wanted to hug a tree.
Yeah,
and that's not normal unless you're some like.
That's your odd shrooms.
Unless you're like some hippie nature dude. That's not normal. Yeah. And then you're gonna wake up the next day being like, what the fuck happened?
What the fuck? Why did I try to hug a tree?
Yeah.
No, definitely. It like. They put you in a very vulnerable state because what they do is they strip away all the bullshit noise in life and they leave you with the basis of who you are as a person. And you have to confront who you are as a person. And if you do that in a way where your dosage is wrong, you aren't prepared for it, you're in a bad setting, which happens all the time when kids our age take substances and aren't educated about them, you get horrible experiences. Mm-hmm. And you shouldn't. That's not good because one of the things, for example, is a lot of times people forget they're on a drug or they forget what's going on around them and they just think the world is confusing and imploding on itself and that kind of thing. And when you have no idea what you're going into and you I'm not saying overdose and like go to the hospital, but you take a too high of a dose of a substance you've never taken before and
pass out.
You're tweaking out. That's not good. That's not good. When you take 4 grams of shrooms your first time, you're not going to have a good time. I have a friend. I'm not going to say his name.
Almost did. Did you?
I almost said his name. I almost said his name.
I mean, if you did, I could have censored it, but like, I mean,
yeah,
make my life easier.
Yeah. And his first psychedelic experience was at a party that I threw where he took about twice the recommended dose and just was like, fuck it, we'll see what happens. And he ended up in a corner in my room rocking back and forth saying, I am a tree for 2 hours. All right? Like, Raynele's laughing because he knows who the dude is.
Yeah.
It's a huge joke in our friend group. But that's the kind of thing it can do,
Yeah, I mean, because it can... I'm sorry.
No, go ahead.
It can ruin a reputation. Let's be real. Like, you can be that, like, 4.0 athlete who, like, fucking fucks all the bitches. No, I'm kidding. You can be a 4.0 athlete, and then you go to a party, or you go to, like, some small get-together with your friends, and you're like, hey, let's have some fun. Take some acid or something. And then you wake up the next day, you somehow, like, are shirtless, you have dicks drawn on your face, and then you don't remember what happened. And now your face is plastered all over social media, you're somewhere out in the street, and now your reputation is gone. That's obviously going to the extreme, but still, you can get something at the basis of that.
Yeah. And, like, just... It's hard for me, because I think that adults should be able to make whatever choices they want to make. And I think ultimately, not to say that they're good or bad, but a lot of the experiences that come with psychedelics can be beneficial to people. when they're taken properly in the right ways as an adult, when the full knowledge of what you're doing. But the problem is you just can't meet those criteria when you're a 16-year-old. You know, you can't possibly test your substances and know what you're taking and be in a completely good mental state when you're at a party when you're 17 and your friend just gave you a tab. There's no way to make those intelligent decisions. And there's been times when, for example, a group of friends and I went to the drive-ins, and we're at the drive-ins, right? And a couple of them are like, let's drop tabs right now. And I'm like, no, for the love of God, first of all, we have to drive later, so I'm getting an Uber because I refuse to be in a car while you're high on acid driving. All right, first of all. But second of all, we are in an unfamiliar location. I don't know what's in the shit you're giving me. We're about to watch a horror movie, and you want to trip.
That's prime time for heart attacks.
That's like asking to have a psychotic breakdown during a trip. And it's like those kind of dumb decisions that you get when you're a high schooler who doesn't have proper education.
Yeah. I mean, like, remember, I mean, I don't know if it's still prevalent, but remember, like, the whole Flocka thing? Have you watched Vice and that whole Flocka thing? And you can see those videos. And, I mean, if you haven't seen Flocka, look it up, because it's definitely, like, a good example of something that just, like, it doesn't turn you into a...
One thing I will say before you continue, and then I'll let you talk, is I want to differentiate real quick. I just want to differentiate psychedelics from substances like that, because psychedelics do not at all make you, like, eat people's faces off and do shit like that. Like... Just want to separate those. Continue.
Yeah, but like it's almost like what your example was like almost the same thing as how it happened with Flocka. Everyone fucking went batshit and they had to go to the ER. And even the people at the ER, they couldn't hold them down that. They couldn't hold people down that well. And you see those videos, people are just like dancing in the rain or just like fucking doing some random shit.
Yeah,
and that's where it becomes concerning.
Yeah, and like I said, that becomes very concerning. And oftentimes psychedelics are not like that. At least to that extent. Like, the probability, even as a first-timer, that you're going to have an incredibly tweaked trip where you end up in the ER is so low. But they can induce states of confusion and delirium and anxiety that are very troubling to people who haven't taken them before, you know? And maybe... a psychedelic, if you take shrooms, you're not going to eat your buddy's face off, but you might forget that you're, you know, where you are, and you might not remember where you are or who you're with, and you might get really confused and scared, and that's not something that's good, you know? You shouldn't do that. And the other thing, too, about psychedelics that I think is horrible, and this is not on the part of the users, this is on the part of the people surrounding users, is just like how fucked up people can be to other people who are tripping. Like, because when you're having a bad trip, that is the worst experience you're ever going to have in your life. Like, you think, like, you genuinely think that you're dying. You don't remember that you're a person. You don't remember that you're on Earth. You don't know what's going on around you. You don't know where you are. You're confused. You're scared. And there are people who, when their homie is having the worst trip of his life, they'll go fuck with him and start, like, poking him. And, like, fuck, you know? And those are the people that have the lowest place in hell reserved for them. And that's all I have to say about that.
That's where it's like, you can't pull that shit.
Yeah.
I mean, like, when you can tell someone is not having, like, a good time, that's not where you can just be like, hey, let's have fun. That's the point where it's like, hey, let's make sure this guy's okay and all. Yeah. And, like, let's actually, like, help him. Because that doesn't show you that you're a good friend. That doesn't show you that you're a friend at all. That just shows you that you're just a dickhead who likes to take advantage of people.
Yeah. And the thing is also, if you and your friends are taking things, you should all be aware of the risks that come with what you're taking. So, for example, if I had a friend who is having a bad trip, he ate a couple grams of shrooms, he's having a bad trip, I'm not going to take him to the ER or do anything like that, because I know as a sober friend that nothing's wrong. But that doesn't mean I'm not going to, like, I know he's not going to die. I'm
not going to, like, put water balloons at him.
But I'm not going to, like, go out of my way to give him a bad time. I'm going to try to, like, do my best to be like, hey, dude, it's okay. Give him a little hug. Be like, hey, it's all right, man. It's all right, you know? And, like, if you're not supportive of people around you, because maybe they're making choices you don't agree with, but you still have... Once that choice is made, you still have to help them, regardless, you know?
Yeah.
And you can't just be a dick to them after they made that choice.
Yeah, it's like when you choose to make a decision that your parents like don't disapprove of, but then when you start like seeing like it's going somewhere, then they start supporting you, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So it's like you can't just like do this and then be like, oh well, you can just fuck off or something like that. You have to like be there and actually just like contribute in terms of like be their cheerleader.
Yeah, like support, you know? Yeah. 100%.
Yeah. I mean, yeah. Okay. Like any other points about like psychedelics in general?
I mean, I could go on for psychedelics for days, but I don't know. Another
any,
thing,
like, major points.
Another thing that I would say is do your research, dose correctly, because I guess there are three things.
well, hold on. Let's go. Let's say. I mean, don't dose at all. But if it's your choice to do it, but then like obviously he's helping you like.
Yeah, you see, before I go into that, I guess I'll elaborate a little bit. My philosophy is I'm never going to encourage anyone to do any substances because I've seen the negatives they can have, and I don't want that to be on people.
Especially when they're like saying no.
Oh yeah, I'm never going to tell someone to take a substance because I'm never going to condone doing that. But at the same time, it's so important for proper safety and education to be out there, and it's important to not take too high of a dose, dude. Like, it's important to know what you're putting in your body if you're gonna make that choice. It's important to be aware of how your setting can affect what's gonna happen, because in the end, people are gonna make choices regardless of whether or not they're condoned or not, and it's essential for those people to have the most safety optimized for their choices, you know?
Yeah.
Because it's not fair to someone for there to be all this information out there for them to have a safe time and for them to just... It's almost not even their fault for not knowing it because they were never told. You know? It's not their fault. There needs to be education.
There needs to be some sort of guidance, at least.
And, like, it's really hard. It's really hard when it comes to that because, like, then you get into... When you're talking about dosing, for example, do you teach kids dosing? Because once you start teaching kids dosing, you're teaching kids the amount to take, right? Yeah. And so it gets to the point where it's like, well, you're teaching them how to be safe and not take too much, but you're also teaching them to take it. And it's a very gray area, and it's an issue that isn't easy to solve.
It's kind of like hard history. You know?
It definitely is.
Because like if you think about hard history, it's like like people are still uncomfortable about talking about it. But again, there's the point where it's like, this is something that you do need to learn. Yeah. Right? So when you're learning about dosing, obviously, you don't want to teach them about it, but it's something that they should learn if they make the choice. Because it's obviously, you're teaching them this, but it's their choice. So if they want to use it, then let them use it. But when it becomes a problem, obviously, help them.
Exactly. Well, and then the thing is, like, for me personally, I'm lucky because... I started doing my research and I found a love for pharmacology, and I found that I'm passionate about research chemicals and that kind of stuff. So for me, doing research on this type of stuff is fun. But for most people, it's not. And if you don't teach kids, they're not going to teach themselves. Like, kids aren't going to go do the proper research to know how to properly dose for DXM experience. They're not going to do that. Yeah. You know? That's not going to happen. No one's going to do that on their own time. You got to help them out.
No one's going to necessarily think about it.
Yeah.
We talked about using it. We talked about psychedelics and drugs and the differences between them. And we definitely talked about a bunch of stories. Uh-huh. Maybe we should bring it to, like, right now. Talking a little quiet, I think. But maybe it'll be loud enough. I'll fix it. But maybe, like, something right now that's probably, like, the biggest issue in terms of just something that's close to us. Mm-hmm. And I feel like not only it's like the reasons for using, but also like why is it so popularized now? I mean, I get it, easy access and all, but like, I mean,
popular culture, dude.
Yeah,
and like, that's it. Yeah, it's pop culture because back in the 70s, dude. Yeah, people were doing drugs back in the 70s, but you also couldn't say fuck on television in the 70s, you know? And so there's been over the last few decades, there's been a shift in pop culture where people are becoming more lenient with things. And so it's gotten to the point in music now where, you know, you didn't used to be able to say fuck in music, and you'd never be on Billboard if you had the word shit in your song. But now the top 20 songs are about lean and fuck because us as a society have just kind of like slowly been like, okay, we're more okay with this, and it's gotten to the point where glamorizing substances
Is cool.
And look, dude, I love Lil Pump as much as the next hype beast, all right? But I'm not going to sit here and tell you that Lil Pump's portrayal, it's not beneficial.
Yeah.
He's not helping kids by promoting drugs. I'll call it that, dude. I like his music, but he, honest to God, him and all those rappers promote fucking drugs.
Yeah. I mean, honestly, I mean, his music, I like it. I definitely like listening to it. As much as stupid as it gets stupid. Yeah, but his music slaps. But the thing is, like, remember when he posted, like, fucking, what? End of 2018 or maybe even, like, big end of 2017, he was like, I'm not going to do Xans no more.
Yeah,
I'm not going to do Lean no more.
Died, yeah.
And then you can, like, obviously... I think he hasn't posted anything about Xans, right?
No, he genuinely quit.
But then he heard about Lean and he said he's kicking the cup, right?
He didn't kick
and then now you saw, and then like I saw his Instagram story. He's just pouring some fucking cough syrup into one of his like $20 sodas.
Yeah.
And then that's where it's like, obviously now they're just glorifying it.
Well, yeah, because like there's always the argument that they make that we're not glorifying it, we're just showing what our life is like, right? And yeah. Maybe you are showing what your life is like, and your life probably is like that. But that doesn't mean that the lives of the 13-year-olds listening to you are like that. And you're putting an idea of what life could be like into their minds.
If you became a fucking SoundCloud
member. Because, dude, I'm not gonna lie to you, man. Before Lil Pump came out, if someone came up to me and was like, hey, yo, I'm rolling off these benzos, bruh, I would have no idea what the fuck they meant.
Exactly.
Alright? But now, after Lil Pump, drug slang and all that has become popularized in culture. If you say, I'm sipping that good shit now, that automatically is associated with lean.
Like, yeah, I can probably go to, like, a Lil Pump song right now. I can probably find, like, one lyric just about drugs in general.
Oh, like, yeah. It's probably, I'm off the molly, I'm off the lean, I'm off, you know, like, that type of shit. And it's like, I'm not going to say that our music shouldn't have that, about whatever they want. But I'm not going to say it's not harmful either, because it is harmful.
Yeah, there's no way you can't, like, nothing about this is harmless.
Yeah. Well, and it's like the thing, if you tell someone not to say elephant, they're going to want to fucking say elephant even more.
Yeah.
Like, if someone came up to me and was like, you're never allowed to say elephant again, I would be like, elephant you, motherfucker. Like, yeah, you know? And so it's the thing where, like, drugs now are becoming such a huge thing, and they're so popular, yet everyone is still being like, no, don't do them, that all these kids now are like, well, Lil Pump's doing it, so fuck you, I'm gonna go do it too.
Yeah, Lil Pump, and all these, like, cool kids are doing it, and I'm like 12, bro.
Right?
I'm like...
You're like, Posty's off the Xans, so I can be too, you know?
And I can wear a waist pack over my shoulder, put on some fucking off-whites on the bottoms of my feet, put on some fucking pants that are probably like $200, but you can probably get them retail for like 20 and shit like that. And then somehow now that's popular. And then you just have, like, you just toss a little jewel in there. Now you're just popular. Now you're just like, now you're one of those kids. And then that's now exactly.
I just showed Raynele a picture of me in that outfit. Anyway, continue.
But like, no, I'm all for.
I know exactly.
I'm all for the fashion shit. I'm a fan of fashion.
Oh yeah.
I mean, like, I get the seasonal shit. I try to. I can't afford it, but
I get the Gucci. I get the Louis. You know.
And if I can't afford that, what the fuck? I get packs and long sleeves. I get, like, shoes that are probably worth, like, fucking, like, my computer or something. But then I'm not one to just go and be like, hey, I'm gonna go buy this because people are taking it, so I'm gonna take it too and fit my fit. And
yeah,
that's
exactly.
Yeah.
You know what, Raynele? I think that's great, and I agree with you. But there's a lot of dumb who aren't like that.
Yeah, I know.
And there's a lot. That's the problem. Is there's a lot of kids who don't make smart decisions, and who just are like, oh, well, if I trap and get chains and bitches and take Xans, then I can be just like Lil Yachty.
Yeah.
You know? And it's like, I don't know how to dissociate, like, the art from the effect it has on society.
Yeah.
I don't know.
You can appreciate the art, but then you gotta look at the bigger picture,
right?
That was a fucking bar and a half. No, I'm kidding.
Bars.
I mean, like, that's obvious. I mean, you gotta realize, like, there's gonna be people that are like that, and that's inevitable. But at the same time, why the fuck is it just, like, out there now? It's just, again, pop culture, yeah, whole thing. But, like, why is there such just a rise in it? Because I mean,
I
obviously,
don't-
there's
I
like a
don't
couple
know.
people. There's like a couple people. Like, let's go back to freshman year, right?
Yeah.
A couple people, like they're doing it, chill. Next year, a little bit more, but it's not noticeable.
This year, it's like insane.
This year,
Everyone has a wax pen this year.
you can just like walk down the hall, and you can probably like talk to one person that isn't like one of those innocent kids.
Yeah.
I'm kidding. I don't want to call out these people because I don't like calling out things.
Yeah.
At least for this podcast, I don't want to like make an attack on anyone. But like, you go to like the kids that sit in like a corner of like the room or like corner of like the buildings and stuff, and I mean, those are like those are like actual people who are like probably like the most normal.
Yeah.
If I'm being honest. And then you
Yeah.
can go up to like some random person standing in the halls, and you can be like, hey, you got anything? And he's like, yeah, bro, I got this and this.
Dude, yeah, I was in the bathroom today, and there was some kid I didn't even know who was like, hey, man, do you have your sword? And I was like, I've never talked to you before, but, like, somehow you just, like, what? Everyone, it's just a thing.
Yeah, now it's like it's literally like Twitter trends, if we're being honest.
Like, dude, okay, I'm not gonna lie to you right now. I don't know where the fuck wax pens came from. Like, last year, I knew, like, 2 people who had them, and then I pulled up to school this year, and everyone has them.
Yeah, like, no, freshman year, I was such an innocent fucking child. Like,
That's
I
facts.
heard of it, and I'm like, oh, well, whatever. I mean, if you do it, it's your choice.
Yeah.
And then now it's like, I mean, I'm exposing my fucking self, but like, of course,
Welcome to the club.
yeah. Welcome to the club. Welcome to the club. But like, that's the problem. Like, at freshman year, I was like, oh, what the fuck is that? I don't know what it is,
Yeah, you
and
were.
I'm not gonna try it. And then now it's like peer pressure.
Yeah.
If we're being honest,
Honest,
it's like
yeah.
you get told, you get the opportunity to, you're down. And like, so far, like, I've told myself to stop, and I've stopped occasionally. Like, I don't do it to a point where it affects me, and I don't do it like 24/7,
Yeah.
right? So, and then that's not a problem anymore. I feel like I definitely haven't made it a problem anymore, or haven't even started it to become a problem.
That's, yeah. And that's like, I was about to say that's ideal. That's not ideal because you shouldn't necessarily take those things ever.
To begin with, yeah,
Yes.
obviously. But
But
then
you shouldn't let them control your life.
Yeah.
You know? And when it gets to a point where you see them controlling your life, you need to take a step back and stop. And the other thing, dude, I want to talk about involving that is how difficult it is to stop when you're in an environment that doesn't want you to.
Or an environment that just doesn't even stop in general.
Yeah, okay, because as a personal example, when I tried to stop taking Xanax, I was like, I'm going to do this, right? But I would go on my phone, and half of my friends on their stories are selling Xanax.
They're just, yeah, I mean,
You know?
I can
Or
go
it's
on
like-
my Snapchat story, and there's like, I mean, I know one or two people that used to not like show it off that much, and then I like look at their stories now, and they're like, y'all, tap in.
Yeah, you know, and it's like when you're surrounded by it all the time, it makes it so hard. And it's like when it's fucking 4 a.m, bro, and I'm laying in my bed and I'm like, I can't sleep. I'm curled up in a ball, and all I can think about is wanting that beautiful 4 milligram alprazolam school bus, right? There's nothing stopping me from just like hitting up my boy who's mobile at all hours of the night and being like, come by and give me a bar, you know? And that's the problem when you're still in that environment, is it's hard to get out. And for me personally, even, it's hard to get out because getting out means you give up on your life, you know? Like, I can't tell you how many times I've thought about, like, you know what? Fuck it. I'm not going to smoke anymore. I'm not going to do anything anymore. I'm just going to stop, right? But then I sit down and I think to myself, and I'm like, okay, well, who do I hang out with, right? Well, all those people do that all the time. And they're my friends. And so if I stop, either I'm just going to have to be around them while they're high and I'm sober. And that's the worst thing ever, is being sober around people that aren't sober.
Yeah, unless like you have that control.
Yeah. Or, you know, like, I'm just like, what's the point when it's a whole world I've built for myself, kind of. Like, it's hard to break out of that. And so that's a big struggle for people, is like being like, okay, I have a problem. I recognize I have a problem and I want to get out of that problem. But getting out of that problem means completely rearranging my life. And that is the part that's difficult for a lot of people, me included.
And there's like a part where you need someone who probably gives like the best advice, or even like an actual expert.
Yeah.
Like, obviously, I'm okay. I don't want to fucking sell out, but be like, I mean, I've been giving friends a bunch of advice, and they actually like agree with me.
Yeah.
Like and then, but the thing is that there's an extent to where that advice is probably not as good as someone who knows more than me.
Oh, 100%. Raynele can give you the best advice, but that's not as good advice as you'll get from a therapist. You know?
There's someone who can top it.
Yeah.
Right. But like, I can tell you what I think. And I try to not be as biased as possible, but obviously there's gonna be a bias somewhere. Yeah. It's fucked. So it's the whole idea of like, okay, I'm gonna use like an example from like what you talked about. How about stopping? Mm-hmm. Like, I mean, I'm not gonna name names obviously, but one of my friends, like, she's like, oh, I'm gonna stop using until so and so, like X, Y, and Z. Like, let's just say like, oh, until I turn 17 or I get like a 3.5 or something.
Yeah.
And I think you'll know who you are if you. I think you'll know who you are if you like if you listen to this.
You'll know who you are.
Yeah. And I don't mean to call you out, and I don't mean to like. That's such a dick move. but
call him out.
But
bro.
I really have to like spread this out because I want this to be unfiltered and raw. So like obviously, I mean we're being so unfiltered about this. We're so transparent about anything that we can be transparent about or we want to, right?
Yeah.
So I mean, like obviously, I'm not gonna. Not name names because like obviously no consent yet to use names at all unless they actually did, but she's like, oh, I'm gonna stop using until like X, Y, and Z, or I'm gonna stop using this year. And then I hear like 2 minutes later, like, well, didn't go so well.
You want to know what the problem with that right now is you can't say, oh, I'm gonna stop using it this point, or I'm gonna stop in a day, or when I'm done with this cartridge. If it's not a problem that's big enough for you to stop at that moment, it's not going to happen. You have to like want yourself to stop.
Yeah.
And that you're not like, it has to be like a serious issue, and like you have to want it yourself. And the problem is when you don't want it yourself, it doesn't happen.
Yeah. And then, like, I mean, I'm gonna use like a video that I've seen before. It was by BuzzFeed. I mean, obviously BuzzFeed is full of like some dumb shit, but at the same time, like they actually have some good videos. If I'm being honest. But like, there's this video where like this guy like tried to quit smoking in 3 days, and he got proper help from someone who actually like was able to get people to quit smoking. I don't know if you've seen the video.
I haven't.
Okay, but like this guy, he tells him like the guy who's trying to make this other guy stop. He's trying to tell him like, all right, I want you to write these things about yourself, put them on your cigarette box, and like whenever you feel like have it on you, and whenever you feel like you have that want to smoke, take it out and read those things. It's like, I am addicted, or like I want whatever, and it's like that whole like that whole thing where it's like you read it over and then somehow you just won't feel anymore. So it's, you got to be motivated and determined, and you got to get the backup by others or experts to help you stop.
Yeah. Oh, 100%. Like, I'll be real, 3 weeks ago, after 5 months, I was a head ass and I bought Xanax and I took more, right? And, like, one of the few things that stopped me from going out and buying a second dose, or I guess a second handful, was I thought to myself, like, I looked at what I had been like the last few days, and I was like, is this really the person I want to be? Yes. And it's like, do I really not want to remember things, and do I really want to be this asshole person that I am? And I was like, no, I don't. And that's what motivated me to not go out and buy more. But it's like, you have to like take that moment to look at yourself in the mirror and be like, I'm a piece of shit right now. Like, I am being stupid. I'm making dumb decisions. Do I really want to be this asshole that I am? Because unless you do that, you're not going to stop.
Yeah. I mean, and that's like the obvious, because it's never a thing that you can just like at a Thanos fucking snap just stop.
Yeah, exactly.
It's not gonna disappear in like 2 seconds.
Because if it could, dude, then like the world would have so many less problems, and we wouldn't have 70,000 people ODing on heroin a year.
Yeah,
you know,
we won't have like schools full of fucking clouds of vape.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. No, I remember like there was something that was interesting that I was told. So like the day after, not the day after, but like the first day I was back after that dance that was on a Friday. So that next Monday, I was talking with one of the APs, the assistant principals, and he left. I miss him a lot. But I was talking with him, and he was like, dude, there's probably a couple times a month we have kids go out of this school on fucking stretchers because they OD'd on something, you know? And he was like, we constantly are dealing with kids like ODing and taking things and all that kind of stuff. And he's like, and I don't want you to just be another number in that, and I don't want you to just be another kid that we have to take out on a stretcher, you know? And I was like, damn, I respect that. Like, it's a serious issue, and it's a serious issue that affects everybody, but you can be an individual in that, and you can make your choices and improve yourself and the lives of those around you. And that's really the most you can do, is just educate yourself, educate the people around you, and make smart decisions, you know? Like, that's the most you can do.
Yeah. I mean, okay, before we, like, I mean, we'll put our closing thoughts, but, like, let's take a moment to, like, appreciate that, and kind of, like, we're not gonna say his name, but obviously, we'll, like, shouts out to him. Obviously, he's, like, probably, like, the grandest homies yet.
I love that guy, yeah.
Yeah, but, I mean, we need more people like that, because they don't bullshit.
Yeah.
And that's the thing that we need. We need people to just not bullshit and be like, and just, like, be honest about what goes on with, not even, like, outside, not even, like, what people see, but inside, what's happening, like, with your personal life and things like that. And that's what you need to look at.
That's what you need to look at, because there's always a deeper issue, man.
Yeah. I mean, do you have any closing thoughts before we end this? Because I know you gotta go, but, like,
I don't know, not really. I would just say, like, be safe, guys, you know? Like, if you're gonna do shit, be educated, make smart decisions, don't do things that you're uncomfortable with, don't let people push you to do things. Remember that the choices you do make are the choices made by someone whose brain isn't fully developed, and weigh that in when you're thinking about things. Think about the effect that your choices have on those around you.
Yeah.
You know, just, I don't know. Remember that just because addiction isn't your fault doesn't mean you can't stop it in the first place.
Yeah. I mean, and then, like, the thing is, like, their brain's probably harmed even more because they're using it, and now they're trying to get you to use it. So that's obviously it's harming their decisions. And overall, the overall message I want to get out of this is just, like, don't even try. Don't even like use. Don't even think about using. I mean, you can think about it, but at the same time, you're gonna know the consequences if they ever do arise, which is obvious.
I would, dude. If you're gonna think about using, wait until you're an adult with a developed brain and you're educated and you can make decisions. Yeah. Like, don't do something dumb when you're a kid. And
you can afford the safety precautions. Yeah. And you basically giving yourself self-consent. I mean, okay, so that's probably about it. This is a pretty good podcast. I'd actually love to have you back as, like, a guest.
I'd be down. Yeah, I'd be down to come
actually back. Be, like, pretty good. If I'm being honest. It was a good talk. If we get more people, that'd be great, because I feel like you definitely have a good point of view.
Thank you, man.
I mean, that's probably it. We'll roll the outro, but this is What You Don't Hear, conversations about anything. Well, I mean, it's over.